to this episode of the Be Raire Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Kimber, and this is a podcast which helps busy and burnt out recruiters generate leads, increase their revenue, and automate their time. In today's episode, I'm going to be giving you the exact lead generation process that I would follow if I wanted to generate $100,000 every single month on my desk. Now, what we need to go through today is what I call the ecosystem. An ecosystem is the word that I use when I talk about creating lead generation strategies which work on my desk and then being able to tie them together to create a really nice system of upsells and downsells. So I'm going to give you exactly what I would do as a recruiter if I was brand new to this and I wanted to start generating leads on autopilot. Now, the first thing you need to know when it comes to creating an ecosystem is that there's actually 3 stages of the marketing funnel, or the stages that your audience are at when they're considering working with you. So stage 1 is top of the funnel. This is brand awareness stage. Now, brand awareness is where you are sharing your message with the masses and people understand what you do. This is marketing yourself, or personal branding if you like. So what it is creating visibility and brand awareness around you, your services, who you help, what you help, and so forth. And being able to do this generates interest in you and your services. Now, brand awareness stage typically is not designed necessarily to jump straight into the conversion phase. Just because people know who you are doesn't mean that they're going to convert. So there's a stage in between. And the next stage, the second stage, is your consideration phase. Now, your consideration phase is when people already know who you are because they can't get to that point of considering working with you if they don't know who you are. And they're somewhat considering. Maybe the time's not right just yet, which is very normal. Maybe they've got some questions. They're a little bit uncertain. Maybe they like what you do, but they're not sure if it can help them. So they're somewhat considering you. They're noticing, but they haven't yet converted. Now, the consideration phase of the funnel is prime opportunity to solve problems, answer questions, create value, and overcome objections on behalf of your audience. And there's so many different ways that you can do that, which we will talk through a bit later in this video. Now, the third stage of the funnel is once somebody's been through brand awareness, they're considering working with you, only then can you convert, because conversion comes from people being clear and certain that you can help them solve their problem. And working with you is a good use of their time and their money and their investment. The way I want you to think about the ecosystem is in those 3 stages. What are you doing at each of these stages to create opportunities for yourself? An example of the exact ecosystem that I would follow is I create brand awareness through my personal branding at the top and all of my other content, and also my outreach strategy. Then when people are considering working with me, at this point I've captured their attention. I've already got a minute of their time. So at this point I want to get 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes of their time. So this is when I do things such as run webinars, ask them to join my community group, because think about it, no one's going to join my community group or watch my webinar or even this YouTube video if they actually just think what I do is sucks. They've got absolutely zero interest in it. So can you see how in my awareness phase I'm creating interest? And at this point I'm explaining what I do. So just like in this video, I'm explaining to you my knowledge and what I have. Maybe that's the right fit for you, but maybe it's not. But maybe you are still interested and it's piquing your curiosity at some point. So you might keep continuing to watch videos. This is what it's all about. It's about educating and creating that interest at that point and making people feel as though that makes sense and maybe she can add value, because this is the exact cycle psychologically that your audience is going through when they're considering working with you as well. That leads to the third stage of my funnel. So how do I convert my audience? Well, we do sales calls. I convert at scale through webinars as well. I also run promotions in my community group where I take on a certain amount of clients every single month one-on-one, because of course I've only got limited availability. So I post that exclusively to my community group first to give them first options. And then I would go to market after that. But what you'll notice if you followed me for a little while is I actually don't really ask too much for you to convert through my social channels. The reason being is because the people that would convert at the highest rate are those that are already in my community and very interactive with me. And then I ask them if they want to work with me. So that's my buyer's journey. What does that mean for you in recruitment? Because at the end of the day, my funnel is a bit different to you. And I know you're probably thinking that your desk is totally different, and that is true. And there's different funnels for different industries. So let's talk now about what that looks like in recruitment. Now, side note, actually, before I do talk about that, if you are a recruiter that struggles with lead gen, sales, personal branding, and you really want to create that marketing strategy to, number 1, generate leads, and number 2, convert leads, I'll leave a link in the description to access what's called the Be Raire Academy. So the Be Raire Academy is my online online training platform specifically for recruiters. It is a global academy and it's suitable for recruiters at all levels of experience in every single country and every single desk. So check it out. I will give 7 days free access, a free trial to anyone who is interested. So click the link in the comments for that. Now, going back to the ecosystem for recruiters, what exactly can you set up and follow along with in order to create your very own ecosystem? Well, the first thing that you need to do is you need to have really solid strategies to generate leads, because if you don't know how to generate leads and bring them into the funnel, nothing else works. And this doesn't just apply to what I'm saying here. This applies to just running a desk in general. Having some really structured processes in order to generate leads and bring them into the funnel is absolutely critical. Now, the lead generation processes that you would follow is actually desk dependent, because the way you would attract C-suite execs versus blue collar temps is a very different process. Like blue collar temps, you could say, right, the way I'm going to generate leads is I'll have a Facebook group, I'll put up job adverts, and I'll send SMS messages to my database letting them know of shifts available. Whereas on the C-suite side of things, that just wouldn't work. You'd have networking events, round tables, LinkedIn personal branding would probably work a lot better. So at this point, it's really important to know what exactly does work on your desk. And again, if you're unsure on what to pick, in my Be Raire Academy, I actually break down all of the lead generation strategies so you can pick your top 3 to 5 that work for you to build a process around. And that's what I recommend. I recommend having about 5 or so strategies, give or take. Anywhere between 4 to 6 is a good number to work with. So what I recommend at brand awareness phase for recruiters is find a way to make yourself visible. If you use LinkedIn to do any form of outreach, which I know most people do, absolutely have to be posting content. The content actually gives your messages the context and the credibility to deserve a response, because if you're somebody that they're confused on what you do, they just won't respond, especially if they don't have a need. But if it's really crystal clear what you do, who you help, there's a ton of different value, and you're positioned as somebody that your audience wants to speak to, you'll increase your response rate immediately just by doing that. I recommend LinkedIn branding in the form of content and also an outreach strategy to create mass scale visibility as well. If you have those two in place, what this is going to do is create brand awareness at scale. I personally don't recommend that you do manual activities such as cold calls to create mass scale brand awareness. The reason behind that is because it's an exchange of your time for a lead, and you can't scale that, and there will be a point where you run out of time or you hit a limit. You can't get past that because you don't have more hours in the day. I do believe you should pick up the phone in the consideration phase. We'll talk about that shortly. But in terms of creating opportunities, educating people on your brand, what you do, who you help, you need to be doing that at scale. So you need to be posting content which reaches thousands and thousands of people, because you physically can't call that many people and explain that to them. Create the visibility first to create the opportunities, pique curiosity, and then when people are considering working with you, at this point, this is where you can take over your more manual processes, knowing that these leads are more likely to convert because there's a level of familiarity, or they already know, understand, or like what you do as well. Second stage is my warm calls. So knowing who is a higher quality lead to focus on calling. I recommend doing somewhere between 20 to 30 connected calls every single week minimum. Ramp that number up if you need more leads, or you can ramp that number down if you've already got a ton of different roles to work on. But 30 is a really good number to work with. So about 6 connected calls per day. What that's going to do is give you a chance to have some really high quality conversations, but also you've got your visibility brand awareness strategy running in the background to create pipeline, and then you can focus on high quality conversations with the 48 hours in your work week that you do have. So consideration for recruiters should always be warm calling. What it should also be is at this point you need to have what I call a downsell. Now a downsell is where people say thanks but no thanks, which will happen a lot because naturally you won't always catch people right place, right time. And when people say thanks but no thanks, you say, okay, amazing. I've actually got this other thing in the form of a lead magnet to offer you. Are you interested? So the common one is salary surveys. So being able to say to somebody, all good, hey, look, I've actually just produced this salary survey based on the current market. Would you be open to me sending you a copy? It may help you when you're negotiating pay rises with your team. A certain percentage of people will say, yeah, sure, why not? You send the lead magnet, they'll download that, and then you've actually got email marketing attached to it designed to upsell them. Now, this is very different to just sending mass scale emails through your database, because of course that's got a super low response rate, because when people opt in, they're already somewhat interested, and also your emails are more likely to appear in the primary inbox at that point because there's not a blocker on them. On cold emails, quite often there's blockers and it goes to the junk mailbox if they haven't opted in. But if they've opted in, they won't get that. If they are sent your salary survey, they mark your email as safe, and that's what you do on the landing page. You say, make sure you check your junk and mark as safe. Then they start receiving your emails, and then at that point, these emails are designed to add value, prove what you're capable of, show testimonials, credibility, educate them. And at this point, they now understand what you do. So can you see how I use that to get people back on the phone with me? So that's 2 things. Now, there is a third thing that I recommend all recruiters do. I know a lot of people do business these days through the phones, through emails, and look, that's great, and it does work. If you really want to set yourself apart, give yourself a goal to attend a networking event once a quarter minimum, but if you can do that once a month, that would be even better. And go along to networking events in person. There's no better way to build rapport with someone in person because they can't just ignore your call. You know, they're not going to walk away from you in person, so you can get conversations out of people. Take a business card with a QR code on it and get them to scan it at the time when you're meeting with them. And what this QR code does is actually captures their details, puts them into your ecosystem, and attaches email marketing to it as well. So just in the same way that you would attach email marketing to your lead magnet, you can attach email marketing to someone scanning your QR code as well. So it's just a really easy way to capture the leads of people that you speak to. And when I go out and I do conferences, like I did the Talent X conference, I went along with my QR code, people scanned it, I generated leads, and then that was a big follow-up list. So because these people had met me in person, the conversation was just so much warmer than me calling just randoms. So I really recommend you have a process for that in the consideration phase, and you're just really warming people up. And this is the point you can really start to understand who you can help and who is worth going onto your follow-up list, because not everyone should go on your follow-up list. If someone literally won't convert, no interest in what you do, that's okay. There's always more opportunities. In fact, there's thousands and thousands and thousands. It's all about picking apart who is worth following up with and who you just don't bother with, because you actually can't help everyone. And I honestly would have 100 people on my hot list who know what I do, love what I do. Maybe the time's not right, but they really are part of my community. They speak to me all the time. When I call them, we have really good, honest conversations. There's a partnership. They agree to meet me in future. They download my lead magnet. They respond to my email marketing. Like, these are the people that convert. And this goes back to something which I mentioned earlier. I don't really offer my services super publicly to cold people because I've got thousands of leads in my consideration pipeline, and these people get first option because they already understand what I do, and it makes more sense for me to go down that path. And you can do exactly the same on your desk as well. Before I move on to the conversion phase, what I will also say here is your lead magnet doesn't need to be a salary survey. I do love salary surveys. I think they're awesome, and I coach a lot of recruiters on how to create their own salary surveys and what that looks like, what to include, and how to market it. But actually, if you think outside the box, and you could even do, for example, like a 3-part video series on what they can do to, number 1, retain their staff, number 2, to negotiate pay rises, number 3, to write the perfect job ad, for example. It depends what your audience wants. Like, pick what your audience wants, what they struggle with. You'd create a piece of content, a piece of value around that in the form of a lead magnet, and you'd use it as a downsell. So this is a really great way to get people in your funnel, but also nurture them automatically as well. So the third and final stage of the process is your conversion funnel. So how are you converting leads? Now, what I recommend is, this is your calls, of course, you know, but it's also booking meetings and next stage. So this is what you're saying when you're going out to meetings. And to be honest, this is where your sales skills come in. Up until this point, it's all about lead generation skills. And when you start crossing the line between consideration to conversion, this is where you need to be really solid at sales. This is where you need to know how to ask the right questions in the discovery phase, how to handle objections with confidence, how to trial close, pitch and close. And by the way, if you're not 100% there with your sales strategy, the Be Raire Academy also has an end-to-end sales program. It's the 21 stages of the sales cycle. So it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're good at some areas but need some work in others, there is a video which literally trains you end-to-end on the sales process. So check that out if you are interested. But something I recommend for converting your audience is find their biggest pain point throughout the journey of having conversations, or even from using your market knowledge, speaking to other clients or candidates, and work out what is the biggest pain point in my industry. Offer consultation calls around that. So an example of this is when I was doing a lot more rec to rec, I was more hands-on myself, and my agency clients, their biggest struggle was finding high billers. So I would offer a consultation call around creating high billers, what that looks like for them. Can you see how, yes, it's somewhat recruitment related, but actually I'm educating them and consulting with them on something they desire. It's not necessarily me being able to perform and recruit for them, it's something they want. This is really what you need to be doing. You need to be finding a way to contact people to offer them what they want. Because if you can nail that, people want to speak to you because they want their problem solved. If you're not solving a problem, if you're over here talking about job ads and they don't have an issue with job ads, they'll never jump on the phone with you. And this applies to clients and candidates, by the way. And that's the same for this entire funnel that I've spoken about. You should have one of these funnels for clients and one of these funnels for candidates as well. Because the way you generate candidate leads is different to the way you generate client leads. For example, the principle is still the same: awareness, consideration, convert. Conversion is your one-on-one activity. This is also where you spend your time, your manual time, following up. This is your call list. You should not be trying to convert randoms from LinkedIn that have no idea who you are, or randoms from your database. There's one big master list with 1,000 names on it. The spray and pray approach, where you hit the jackpot every now and then, yeah, you will, but you'll also get burnt out, exhausted, and there's only one of you and you can't scale that strategy. So your conversion is when you're calling people that are already in your ecosystem. And if you're giving value at all of those stages, by the thousands, people are aware of what you do, who you help. There's no way that you would just get to that stage and you'd have no one to speak to. The reason a lot of recruiters don't have anyone to speak to is they're trying to convert right now. They've got a name on a cold list and their goal is to convert right now, but that's not what's going to happen. There's steps and layers between that you need to go through. You need to build your pipeline, stabilize your pipeline, create certainty, get really good at sales in the process, know your market. It's going to be the right time in some cases. Like sometimes people will work with you, but it's just genuinely not the right time. So what do you do at that point to retain their attention? Because if you're just doing your follow-ups once a month, have you got a job for me yet? It's just not a strategy where you're a really compelling choice to work with. And then you go through the process and they say, oh, funnily enough, I'm speaking to 5 other recruiters, and another recruiter stood out this entire time and you haven't. And then you go in and you say, oh, by the way, my fee's 20% and I want it retained. They're going to be like, absolutely not. This recruiter up here is way better, because they've created this value, this visibility, this consistency on the front end. They've acted as a partner. They've acted as an advisor. They've nurtured and maintained their pipelines throughout the process. If you're just relying on follow-up calls, you're just not a compelling choice. Complete side note, I won't talk about it too much in this video, but when we're talking about client retention, just because someone signs off your terms and gives you one role doesn't mean you've retained them. There's other recruiters out there trying to take this client. So at this point, what are you doing to retain them? What are you doing to create that visibility and awareness again and again and again? Because if you're not, I can promise you and guarantee somebody else is. And it's just, you're making your life a whole lot harder. That's the funnel. Now, before we actually finish off with this video, where the key to generating $100,000 per month is making these systems talk to each other. So I'll give you a really high level example of what that should look like. Think about it like this. If you've got a brand awareness funnel, let's say it's your LinkedIn personal branding, how do you pull the lead from LinkedIn through to your funnel, through to converting? Because you can do it manually. You can literally upload someone from LinkedIn, import to your CRM, or you can do it automatically. There's a system that's really good called Zapier, and you basically zap it across. So it's when you get 2 systems to talk to each other. So there'll be a zap in the middle that moves person A through the zap to the system, if that makes sense. So you can actually do something where your personal brand brings people into your lead magnet, emails automatically. If they open your email, it then goes onto a task which creates a call notification for you, because you know if they've opened your email and clicked the link, they're more likely to respond to you as well. So how are you getting your systems to talk to one another? How are you designing this so that once someone comes into the top of the funnel, you've got the right steps in place to ensure that the process runs for you and requires very minimal of your time chasing up one-on-one? because this is actually possible. My entire system is set up under autopilot. The only time I take over a conversation with someone is if they're already in consideration and they're at submitted inquiry phase. Before that, it's all automated. Once you show a level of interest, I take the conversation offline. We have a one-on-one discussion. What exactly are your goals? I need to figure out, of course, if I can even help. And once we determine that I can, we then determine what that would potentially look like. But I'm not having those conversations with total randoms from the internet, which are going to take a year to convert, because it's just not a good use of my time. That's the funnel that I recommend you have a think about. This is the funnel that my clients are using to generate literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. I'll leave a couple of testimonials below this video as well. These are all public testimonials, so you can check them out on my LinkedIn profile if you wish. I really recommend you do this, because if you don't, the chances of you being able to maintain your pipeline is just hard. And I'm all about making your life easier, helping you generate leads at scale, automate your time, and really just increase your revenue. So if you did like this video, please do give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe as well. I do post videos like this every single week, so be sure to check them out. And if you are interested in joining the Be Raire Academy, there is a link for a 7-day free trial down in the description. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.